Hey everybody, it's been a long time since I last addressed the internet. Obviously I've deplatformed from Instagram and Twitter. I'm only here on YouTube for now. But as you might know, over the past couple months there have been a lot of things going around about me, the movie, the cast and crew. And so before I go forward with releasing any more content, I felt like it was necessary to sit down and make this video and talk about all of it. I've divided the video up into a few different sections just to make sure, everything gets fully attended to and gets the full attention that it needs. But I won't be speaking on the behalf of anyone else. I don't feel like it's in my place to do that. I'm only going to be speaking on things that either I'm directly involved in or that I directly relate to. So I want to start by talking about what's, in my opinion, the most important thing to talk about, which is that in my first couple years of high school, I'm going to be honest, I was pretty much just a giant loser. I was online way too much. I was part of these group chats and communities where I very often said some of the most offensive things I could think of to get attention from people. I was really just a giant mess. And, as a college sophomore, looking back on how I was as a high school sophomore, it's completely embarrassing. It took a lot of reality checks to kind of shift me off from the path I was heading down and take me in a different direction. Regardless of the fact that I made those changes and did learn my lesson, it doesn't negate the fact that I said any of it in the first place, right? So, all those things are still part of my past, and I'm going to have to live with that, and I take full responsibility for it. I may have been 14, 15, but I definitely knew the difference between right and wrong at that age, I think the excuse that I was too young to know any better or too naive to know any better, I really don't agree with that. I may not have understood the weight of what I was saying and the severity of what I was saying, but I did know it was wrong. I was raised knowing that these things were not okay to say, but I was at this point in my life where I was rebelling and doing the opposite of the right thing just because I could. And I hate that that's the type of kid that I was, and I hate that I contributed to it. But, it's always going to be part of my past, and there's nothing I can do about that. So I've made a lot of personal apologies over the years, especially the past couple months, but the fact of the matter is this has reached hundreds of thousands of people now. It's become really far beyond personal apologies, and so that's why I'm here now, apologizing to not only the people who have kind of been supporting over the years and have looked up to me and maybe disappointed, but especially to the people who the messages, directly affect and target. And so to you all, I'm sorry. The only thing I can really do is to move forward better. That's what I've done the past couple of years, and that's what I always intend to do. The next thing I want to talk about is something that I actually didn't initially plan on talking about, just because I thought it was so obviously fake that it wouldn't really go anywhere, if that makes sense. But I was completely wrong. This became absolutely massive, and a lot of people were using this as a way to, determine my character and judge who I am. And so it became something that was kind of unavoidable to talk about. So a couple months ago when everything was happening, there were a lot of people who kind of took advantage of the situation and added fuel to the fire. And they made a lot of fake screenshots to kind of muddle things and confuse people. This was blown way out of proportion. People were making fake screenshots as a way to prove how easy it is to fake a screenshot. And there are probably more out there that I haven't even seen yet. But there are two in particular that I see people pretty often referencing when they're talking about the situation that I wanted to focus on and disprove. So one screenshot in particular here kind of characterizes me as trashing John Watts after he'd reached out to me when the first Lotus trailer came out back in October. And it shows me calling his movies garb. First of all, I don't think I've ever used the word garb before, but second of all, if you talk to anybody who was close to me when this happened, they would tell you I was absolutely over the moon that I got a message like that.
Dude, I literally cannot even breathe right now. He saw it when it premiered. Dude, there's no f***ing way.
It's no secret that over the years I was pretty outspoken about, not liking his interpretation of Spider-Man. But the moment I got that message, any opinion or negative thought I had about those movies went right to the back of my head. All I could think about was how cool it was that somebody in Hollywood with his level and everything that he's got took the time out of his day to come to an independent production and show support like that. So the next screenshot here references a storyboard situation that happened last year around September 2021, and it kind of characterizes me as being somebody who doesn't pay his crew members. I think whoever made this screenshot kind of fundamentally misunderstands what happened with the storyboards, and so I'm going to take a little bit of time explaining what really happened there and what that was all about. So a little bit before production started, when we were still in pre-production, we were getting ready to film, I did a volunteer call for different artists who submit their work to be used in the movie that lasted from about May 2021 to June 2021, and we got a lot of really great stuff. And so the night before we started filming the Tim Harrison scenes, when it was about to be day one of filming, Jacob Watson, Evan Jackson, and Gabe Combalser, they spent the whole night putting up this artwork and setting up the set and kind of decorating everything. I actually kept all of them. I've had them since we wrapped on the set that these were used on. This one's probably my favorite. It's by Sean Robbie, so shout out to Sean. But yeah, it went really well, and people seemed to be really excited to see their art used in different screen caps and whatever I would release from the movie. And so fast forward to a little bit later, now we're in September, we had wrapped principal photography. I kind of had that idea that volunteer calls were going to work really well. We were getting ready to start filming the action sequences for additional photography. And one thing I learned throughout the initial production, principal photography, was that storyboards are really important. And I definitely should have known that before we started filming. But it's a big thing that I learned throughout production. And so I wanted to apply this the next time we were on set, and I wanted to really get on top of that. But the problem was that I was an absolutely terrible artist. I can't draw anything. So I really needed storyboards for the special effects and also the additional photography. And because of how successful the artist call was in pre-production, I wanted to take a similar approach to the storyboards. Now, this was a huge misjudgment on my part, a huge amateur mistake. A lot of people did not take it the right way when I put out the volunteer call. And after spending a lot of time, reading what people were saying and then seeing what people had to say, I realized I was completely in the wrong. Storyboards are a lot more essential to the production of a movie than fan art would be. Not to discount the fan art, but more so to put more emphasis on the process of being a storyboard artist. So after that situation happened, I took a little bit of time to readjust the way I was going about everything, about 2 weeks. And in October, I had seen a message from Jao Lucas, who had actually submitted for the original artist call in pre-production. And he was offering to work on the storyboards for the movie. And so we discussed payment, and we had hired him for the movie. He worked on a couple CGI scenes, and he was working on a couple of the additional photography scenes. Later on, I had received an email from someone who told me recently they don't want their name included in the video, but did give me permission to show our first few emails with each other. And he was also sort of submitting a portfolio of his work, and I was absolutely blown away by it, and so I brought him on as another storyboard artist. So there was never a point where I had hired people with the promise of pay, refusing to pay them. I tried to compensate everybody as fairly as I could. So this screenshot about not paying storyboard artists is not accurate. So the same person who made those screenshots made a couple more like these two that are just completely ridiculous. I don't know who made them, so I can't say for sure what the motivation was. But because of the fact that they all sort of reference things that happened the last year, like John Watts DMing me, my best guess would be that they were trying to mix them in with the real screenshots and make it look like I haven't grown up at all. If that was the goal, I would say they definitely succeeded because, outside of friends and family who saw these and they were able to tell that they were obviously things I wouldn't say, I can't really blame people on the internet who might not know me personally and haven't spoken to me because they don't really have any other reason than to believe that they are real. The third thing I want to talk about is claims made by a VFX artist who had worked on the movie last year. For some context for people who might not know, this person made a Twitter thread expressing having a bad experience working on the movie and made quite a few claims that were either exaggerated or just completely untrue. Now, unfortunately, I also did not have a good experience working with this person or the former VFX artist, and neither did half of that former VFX team. I'm not sure why he chose to speak on the behalf of other people because there are members from that team who don't share his opinion or experience, and they actually continued to work on the movie even after that team had fallen apart. When some of those VFX artists saw the misconceptions going around about how they were treated, they let me know they were making a video about what it was like working on the movie. That video should be out before this one, and if it is, you can find it on Max Arnhammer's channel. So while I am a first-time filmmaker and there's a lot for me to learn about how I want to run a production, and there were certainly things that could have been handled better by me specifically, there are certain things about me as a director that I wanted to defend, especially in regards to the idea that I mistreat, underpay, or time crunch my crew members. And so while none of this was directly stated by this VFX artist, his tweets did kind of initiate these ideas. And when these misconceptions were being formulated, his tweets were pretty often referred back to when these ideas were kind of being construed. And I think a lot of people missed out on the fact that he did follow up his tweet and clarify a lot of the misconceptions that were going around. So later on, he had clarified that they were all compensated. I did not force any time crunches onto them, and that there was no malicious intent between me or them. The problems with this team were just the results of miscommunication and misunderstanding. And unfortunately, we just didn't have great chemistry with each other and didn't really work that well together. And, sometimes that's just how it has to be. We just are very different from one another and struggle to kind of connect and sort of work on a consistent level. And so, I'm not going to really publicize the details of what happened with this crew because I feel like things like that should remain private. I think they should be dealt between me and them. And I think it would be immature of me and unprofessional to kind of publicize things that I believe that they may have done wrong. And so really the only thing I can hope for is that they learned as much from the experience as I did and that they carry that with them in any of the next projects that they go on to. Now, before the video ends here, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about, which is that there were a lot of rumors going around that I'd abandoned the movie, took the crowdfunded money, and took off. But I'm here to tell you that could not be further from the truth. That's never been a consideration of mine. It's nothing I've even remotely thought about. And anybody who tells you that the movie's not coming out is completely wrong. The movie will be releasing at all costs. But here's why. From the very beginning, this movie was meant to represent a very simple message, which is that we can use tragedy to better ourselves for the people around us because that's our responsibility. It's a very simple message. That's what the title of the movie Lotus represents, and it's something that the entire cast and crew believed in. They all worked on this movie out of passion, not for the money or attention or anything like that. And so that's why this movie is still releasing, because of those messages and ideas. And so regardless of how you feel about me, I ask that you let the movie stand as it was meant to be, and let the work of the cast and crew be put forward how they intended it to be. But rest assured, all the perks and the sweaters and the shirts and everything like that, we're still fully planning on going through with. We're going to be sending out emails. There'll be updates on the Indiegogo. No worries about that. Everything is going forward exactly as we intended. I don't know when the movie exactly will release. I had to make a lot of changes and adjustments. And so the process is drawn out a lot longer now. But there will be updates on my YouTube channel. There will be updates on the Indiegogo. And yeah, so thank you for watching the video. Hopefully it clarified a couple things. And I'm excited to show you guys what we got. Thank you.